Dearly beloved bride and groom, I have something I need to say. Those words echoed through my wedding like a thunderclap in a clear sky. Not from the officiant, not from our parents, but from Victoria Sterling, the best friend I had trusted for 25 years. In her hand was the microphone she just snatched from the MC. In her eyes, a look I'd never seen before, cold, calculating, and filled with malice. I stood there in my pristine white wedding dress, heart pounding, watching 200 guests turn towards Victoria, their faces a mixture of curiosity and confusion. Jake, my groom, squeezed my hand and whispered, "Maya, what's going on?" But I couldn't answer because I didn't know either. I could only stare at the woman with whom I'd shared every secret, every dream, every fear. "I know you all think this is the happiest of days," Victoria continued, her tone syrupy sweet but laced with venom. "But as Maya's best friend since childhood, I can't let her walk into this marriage without knowing the truth." My blood ran cold. What truth? Jake was the most wonderful man I'd ever met. We'd been in love for 3 years. He proposed to me at the very spot of our first date, the Golden Gate Bridge, during an October sunset. I knew everything about him. From how he took his coffee in the morning to the fact he always kept a spare pair of socks in his briefcase. Victoria pulled out her phone. Its screen glowing under the Fairmont Hotel's crystal chandeliers. "I have photos and messages," she said, her voice dripping with faux pity, showing that Jake has been having an affair with another woman for the past 6 months. Gasps rippled through the room. I heard my mother, Mrs. Eleanor Chen, sob from the front row. Jake's parents looked like they'd been sucker punched, and Jake looked at me, his blue eyes wide with bewilderment and pain. "Maya, you know," he whispered, "you know I would never do that." But how could I be sure when Victoria stood there, evidence in hand? Victoria, who had been a witness to our love, who had helped Jake plan the proposal, whom I trusted so much I'd asked her to be our wedding planner, free of charge. But to understand how we got to this point, I have to tell you the story of Maya Chen and Victoria Sterling, a story of friendship, jealousy, and how twisted someone can become when backed into a corner. We first met when we were just 7, at a playground in Pacific Heights, San Francisco. I was a shy kid with black hair into pigtails, wearing a hand-me-down t-shirt and patched-up jeans, sitting alone on a swing. My family had immigrated from Taiwan only 2 years earlier. My parents worked at my uncle's laundromat, and my English was still clumsy. Victoria was my complete opposite. A girl with shimmering blonde hair in perfect braids, wearing a pink frilly dress and shiny patent leather shoes. She came from the Sterling family, one of the wealthiest in the city. Her father was a top lawyer, her mother a plastic surgeon. "Why are you sitting all alone?" Victoria asked, approaching me with a radiant smile. "Want to play with me?" From that day on, we were inseparable. Victoria taught me English, and I helped her with math. She'd invite me to her family's stone mansion in Nob Hill, which had its own swimming pool and game room. I'd invite her to our tiny apartment in Chinatown, where my mom would cook her the best dim sum. At school, we always sat together, ate lunch together, did homework together. Victoria protected me from kids who made fun of my accent, and I helped her with the tests she always struggled with. But even as a child, I noticed something odd about our friendship. Victoria always needed to be the center of attention. If I got praised by the teacher for a good essay, she'd immediately talk about her family's latest European vacation. If I won the science fair, she'd bring an expensive new handbag to class to show off. I just thought it was her personality. I didn't understand it was the first sign of something darker, a deep-seated jealousy Victoria always hid behind a bright smile and sweet words. When we got to Lowell High School, the differences between us became more pronounced. I studied hard, got top grades, joined the math team and the coding club. Victoria focused on being popular, joining the cheerleading squad, going to parties, dating the cuttest guys in school. "Maya, why are you always burying your nose in a book?" Victoria would often say. "There's more to life, you know, but for me, education was the only way out of poverty." I knew how much my parents sacrificed to bring our family to America, working 12-hour days just so I could have a better chance. I couldn't waste that. Victoria didn't understand. She was born with everything, never had to worry about money, never saw her parents cry because they couldn't pay the electricity bill. She could fail and still be fine. I couldn't. Senior year, When the college acceptance letters started arriving, the tension in our friendship reached its peak. I received a full scholarship to Stanford for computer science. Victoria was rejected by every prestigious university she applied to, only getting into San Francisco State full tuition. "Congratulations," Victoria said on graduation day. But her smile didn't reach her eyes. "I'm sure Stanford will love nerds like you." It was the first time I heard the venom in my best friend's voice. And it was the last time we truly spoke for the next 10 years. My years at Stanford were a dream. For the first time in my life, I was surrounded by like-minded people, smart, ambitious students who were as passionate about technology as I was. I learned not just from textbooks, but from brilliant professors and friends from all over the world my sophomore year. I landed an internship at a small Silicon Valley startup. Junior year, that startup was acquired by Google for $15 million, and I received a full-time offer. Senior year, I graduated with a 3.9 GPA and immediately started working as a software engineer with a starting salary of $120,000 a year. During that time, I occasionally thought about Victoria. I'd check her Instagram and see pictures of her college life, parties, expensive trips, and eventually, her wedding to a man named Richard, the son of another wealthy family. I sent a congratulatory text, but got no reply. It seemed Victoria had moved on to a new chapter in her life and didn't want me in it. As for me, I continued to build my career. After 3 years at Google, I moved to another AI startup, this time as a senior engineer with stock options. I bought a condo in Soma, one of San Francisco's hottest neighborhoods, and started investing in real estate. My life changed completely when I met Jake Morrison at a tech conference in 2021. He was giving a presentation on AI applications in dentistry, and I was captivated by his intelligence and passion. After his talk, I approached him to discuss a machine learning algorithm my company was developing. "Would you like to continue this conversation over coffee?" Jake asked with a warm smile. That was the beginning of the most beautiful love story of my life. Jake wasn't just smart and successful. He was kind, funny, and understood the hardships I'd been through. He never made me feel inferior because of my background. On the contrary, he admired my resilience and determination. We dated for 3 years before Jake proposed. He chartered a helicopter to fly us around the Golden Gate Bridge at sunset, and when we landed at Crissy Field, he got down on one knee and pulled out a custom-designed diamond ring. "Maya Chen," he said, his blue eyes sparkling with emotion, "you've changed my life for the better in every way. Will you marry me?" I cried like a baby when I said yes. Wedding planning initially went smoothly. We chose the Fairmont San Francisco as our venue. Booked June 15th, the anniversary of when we first said "I love you." I designed the wedding website, Jake handled the photographer and musicians, and both our families worked on the menu together. That's when I decided to reach out to Victoria. I found her on LinkedIn and was surprised to see her status listed as freelance event coordinator on Impulse. I sent her a message. "Hi, Victoria. I know it's been a long time, but I'm getting married and was wondering if you'd be interested in being our wedding planner. I'll pay you well, of course. And I'd really love to have an old friend help with our special day." She replied in just 5 minutes. "Oh my God, Maya, congratulations. I'd love to help. Can we meet up to talk?" We met at a cafe in Union Square. When Victoria walked in, I was shocked by how much she'd changed. She was still beautiful, but something was different. Her blonde hair wasn't as lustrous. Her clothes, though expensive, looked a bit outdated, and most importantly, her eyes. There was a weariness and bitterness I'd never seen before. "Maya, you look amazing." Victoria hugged me tightly, but the embrace felt forced. "I can't believe you're getting married." We sat down and started talking. Victoria told me about her life. She divorced Richard 2 years ago due to irreconcilable differences. She was doing freelance event planning, but said the market is really competitive. She was living in a studio apartment in the Mission District because she loved a bohemian lifestyle. I didn't know that behind those words was a much harsher reality. Victoria had lost everything in the divorce because Richard discovered she'd been having affairs and gambling. She was tens of thousands of dollars in credit card debt, had no steady job, and was living day to day. "So tell me about the groom." Victoria said with a bright smile. I told her about Jake, how we met, our love story. Victoria listened with an engaged expression, occasionally asking questions about Jake's job, income, and family. I thought she just wanted to understand better to plan the wedding well. Sounds like Jake is a real catch, Victoria said. You're so lucky, in her voice. I again heard that slight edge, but I brushed it off. So, about the wedding, Victoria continued, I can do it for free for you. Consider it a gift from an old friend. I was surprised and touched. Victoria, I can't let you do it for free. This is your job. No, I want to, she insisted. We've lost touch for too long. This is my way of celebrating our friendship. I agreed, and that was the biggest mistake of my life. In the following weeks, Victoria threw herself into planning the wedding with an enthusiasm I'd never seen. She met with caterers, florists, and other vendors. She coordinated with the venue and created a detailed timeline for the wedding day. She even suggested wonderful decoration ideas I hadn't thought of. But she also started asking strange questions. She wanted to know where Jake usually was after work, who his friends were, how he used social media. When I asked why she needed this information, she said it was to understand the couple better and create a personalized wedding experience. A month before the wedding, Jake started mentioning odd things. Did you know your friend Victoria followed me on Instagram? Jake asked one evening while we were having dinner. Oh, maybe she just wants to get to know you better, I replied. She's planning our wedding, after all. But she liked photos from 3 years ago, Jake said, looking confused. And she commented on some things that were a bit weird. I checked Jake's Instagram and saw Victoria had commented so handsome. Maya is so lucky on a photo Jake took at the gym. The comment made me uncomfortable, but I convinced myself Victoria was just trying to be friendly. The following week, Victoria suggested organizing bachelorette parties. I want to create a special surprise for both of you. She said Jake will have a boys' night out and Maya will have a spa day with the girls. I agreed, and Victoria planned a night for Jake at a sports bar downtown, while organizing a day for me at a luxury spot in Napa Valley with my bridesmaids. That day, I had a wonderful time with the girls. We had massages, facials, drank champagne, and talked about the future. I felt relaxed and happy thinking about how in just 2 weeks, I'd be Mrs. Morrison. But when I got home that night, Jake looked strange. Did you have fun? I asked. Yeah, but something weird happened, he said. Victoria showed up at the bar. My heart skipped a beat. Why was she there? She said she wanted to make sure everything was okay, but she stayed all night. She ordered drinks for everyone, flirted with the bartender, and kept asking me about my relationship history. What did she ask? Strange questions. Like if I'd ever cheated, if I kept in contact with exes, if I was hiding anything from you. My friends were all uncomfortable. I started to feel an anxiety gnawing at my stomach. Victoria was crossing boundaries, but I still didn't understand why. A week before the wedding, things escalated dramatically. I was at work when my phone rang. It was a number I didn't recognize. Hello, Maya Chen. This is Detective Sarah Martinez from the SFPD. We need to speak with you about an issue related to your identity. My blood ran cold. What's wrong? Someone has been using your personal information to create fake profiles on dating sites and posting inappropriate content. We've received multiple reports. I asked my boss for leave and rushed to the police station. Detective Martinez showed me screenshots that made me want to vomit. There were dozens of fake profiles using my photos, with bios saying I was a married woman looking for affairs and unsatisfied with current relationship. These profiles had sent explicit messages to hundreds of men. Do you have any idea who might do this? Detective Martinez asked. I sat there silently for a few seconds, my mind racing. Only one person had enough of my photos, knew enough personal information to create such realistic profiles. Victoria Sterling, I whispered. That night, I confronted Victoria over the phone. At first, she denied everything. Maya, I can't believe you'd suspect me. We're friends. But when I mentioned specific details only she could know, Victoria's mask finally slipped. Fine, she screamed. You want the truth. I hate your perfect life. I hate how you have everything I deserve. Who do you think you are? You're just an ugly nerd I pitied since we were 7. Victoria, what are you saying? I wasted my entire youth being nice to you. And for what? So you could steal the spotlight from me? So you could have the career, the money, and the perfect man while I have what? Nothing. Her voice became hysterical. But don't worry, Maya, I'll make sure your wedding will be memorable. Very memorable. She hung up, leaving me shaking and terrified. I immediately called Jake and told him everything. We decided to cancel our contract with Victoria and hire another wedding planner, but it was too late. Victoria had access to every vendor, every detail, every plan. The next day, the chaos began. The caterer called to cancel, saying someone from the bride's family had informed them the wedding was postponed. The florist received a similar call. The photographer was suddenly unavailable due to a family emergency. I spent the entire day frantically calling vendors, explaining the situation, and begging them to fulfill their contracts. Some agreed, but others had already booked other events. But that was just the appetizer for the main disaster. 2 days before the wedding, I received a package at my office. Inside was a USB drive and a note. Thought you should see this before you make the biggest mistake of your life. A concerned friend, with shaking hands. I plugged the USB into my laptop. There were dozens of skillfully edited videos and photos showing Jake in compromising situations with various women. He was at restaurants, at bars, even at a hotel. In one video, I heard him say "I love you" to a redhead in an elevator. I knew these videos were fake. I recognized the clothes Jake wore from times we went out together. I knew his schedule. But the editing was sophisticated. If I didn't know better, I would have believed them. Victoria had spent months collecting footage of Jake, hiring actors to play other women, and editing everything together to create a convincing narrative of infidelity. I realized that Victoria didn't just want to destroy the wedding. She wanted to destroy the relationship itself. I called the FBI cybercrimes unit, but they said an investigation would take weeks. I didn't have weeks. I had 48 hours. The wedding day arrived like an approaching storm. I barely slept. Alternating between anger and anxiety, Jake stayed with me, holding me tight and whispering reassurances, but we both knew Victoria wasn't done. The morning of the wedding, everything seemed smooth. New vendors arrived on time, decorations were perfect, guests began arriving with smiles and excitement. I was getting ready in the bridal suite when my maid of honor, Jessica, rushed in with a panicked expression. "Maya, there's someone downstairs claiming to be the wedding coordinator, and she's setting up projection equipment." My heart dropped. "Victoria." I quickly threw on my robe and ran downstairs. Sure enough, Victoria was in the ballroom with a laptop and projector, testing screens. "Victoria, what are you doing here?" She turned with a smile as cold as ice. "I promised to make your wedding memorable, didn't I, security?" I screamed. But Victoria had somehow convinced the venue staff that she was the official wedding coordinator. "Maya," she said calmly, "all those years, I watched you get everything I wanted. Good grades, a college scholarship, a successful career, and now the perfect man. But you know what? I discovered something interesting in my research." She clicked her laptop, and the fake videos appeared on screens throughout the ballroom. "Your precious Jake isn't as faithful as you think." Guests entering the ballroom began staring at the screens with shocked expressions. I heard gasps and whispers spreading through the crowd. "Those are fake," I shouted. "She edited them." But the damage was done. Guests were confused, murmuring among themselves. Some began leaving. That's when Jake appeared, wearing his tuxedo and looking like Prince Charming. He took one look at the screens, at Victoria's triumphant face, and at my tears, and everything clicked. "Everyone, please listen," Jake said firmly, his voice carrying throughout the ballroom. "Those videos are completely fabricated. This woman," he pointed at Victoria, "has been stalking and harassing Maya and me for months." Victoria laughed shrilly. "Prove it." Jake pulled out his phone. "I've been recording our conversations since Maya told me about your threats." He played the audio of Victoria's hysterical rant from the phone call, her voice clear and venomous. "I hate your perfect life. I'll make sure your wedding will be memorable." The atmosphere in the room shifted immediately. Guests realized they were witnessing something sinister. Security finally arrived, summoned by several guests who had called the police. Detective Martinez, whom I'd spoken with earlier, was among them. "Victoria Sterling," she said, "you're under arrest for harassment, cyberstalking, fraud, and attempted extortion." Victoria's composure finally cracked. "This isn't fair." She screamed as handcuffs clicked around her wrists. I deserved better. I was supposed to have this life. As they led her away, she turned back with wild eyes. You may have won today, Maya, but everyone will see who you really are, a stealing, manipulative bitch who took everything from me. Her words echoed through the silent ballroom as she was dragged out. The wedding coordinator team quickly removed the projection equipment. Guests settled back into their seats, and somehow, miraculously, the ceremony proceeded. When Jake and I exchanged vows, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. Our love had been tested by fire and emerged stronger. Maya, Jake whispered as he slipped the ring onto my finger. No one will ever come between us again. The reception was beautiful, filled with love, laughter, and a celebration of survival. Many guests approached us to express their support and admiration for how we handled the crisis, but the story doesn't end there. Victoria's trial became a local sensation. The evidence included not only the stalking and harassment, but also identity theft from the fake dating profiles, computer fraud from hacking my email accounts. Attempted food poisoning at the bachelorette party tests revealed Victoria had slipped laxatives into the champagne, hiring actors to pose as Jake's affairs, embezzling money from wedding vendors by faking cancellations and pocketing deposits. The investigation revealed Victoria's financial situation was more desperate than anyone imagined. She owed over $200,000 in credit card debt, had been evicted from multiple apartments, and was facing bankruptcy. She had become obsessed with reclaiming the life she felt was stolen from her. In her twisted mind, destroying my happiness would somehow restore her own. Victoria was sentenced to 5 years in prison with mandatory psychological treatment. She was also ordered to pay restitution for legal fees, damage to reputation, and emotional distress. Jake and I moved forward, stronger than ever. We honeymooned in Bali, bought a house in Palo Alto, and eventually had 2 beautiful children. Occasionally, I think about Victoria and feel sad for the person she could have been. Our childhood friendship was real, the memories genuine, but somewhere along the way, envy poisoned her heart until destruction seemed like the only path forward. Life lessons. Recognize toxic friendships. True friends celebrate your successes. They don't resent them. If someone consistently makes you feel guilty about your achievements, that's a red flag. Trust your instincts. When something feels off about a person's behavior, don't ignore your gut feeling. I noticed signs but dismissed them because of nostalgia. Set boundaries. Kindness doesn't mean allowing people to walk all over you. Saying no to unreasonable requests is healthy. Financial desperation breeds dangerous behavior. People facing extreme financial stress can make irrational decisions. Be cautious about involving struggling friends in important life events. Document everything. In the age of social media and digital communication, keep records of suspicious behavior. Evidence saved my marriage. Professional help matters. Don't try to handle stalking or harassment alone. Law enforcement and legal professionals exist to protect you. Choose your inner circle carefully. People with access to your personal information can cause tremendous damage if they turn against you. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. You can forgive someone for your own peace without allowing them back into your life. Victoria taught me that some people view relationships as zero-sum games. Your success means their failure. Healthy people understand that there's room for everyone to thrive. Today, Jake and I have a marriage built on trust, communication, and mutual support. We're careful about who we allow into our inner circle, and we protect our happiness fiercely. Sometimes people ask if I ever miss Victoria. The honest answer is I miss the version of her that existed when we were children, innocent, fun-loving, and genuine. But the adult Victoria, consumed by envy and spite, was a stranger wearing a familiar face. Life has taught me that real friendship helps you grow. It doesn't diminish you. Real friends want to see you succeed because they understand that your success doesn't take anything away from theirs. And most importantly, when someone shows you who they really are, believe them. Victoria Sterling spent 5 years in prison learning this lesson the hard way. I hope when she got out, she found peace and a way to build a life based on her own merits, not the destruction of others, because at the end of the day, the only way to truly win is to lift others up, not tear them down.